Hello, guys. Thank you for joining me. So I'm like you. I've had a busy day, and I've been trying to absorb all this stuff all day long. Like everybody, this came just out of nowhere, and I am so honestly watching the press conference and everything. We're going to talk about all that. I did not really have like a ton of stuff prepared for this because I did have just a ton of stuff to do today, but I'm happy to come on and talk about this because wow. And I hope everybody can hear me all right. And I make sure I'm actually live because we always know that that's a bad thing. But we got Brandon on here with the first comment. He's better than our last two coaches. We have enough cachet to still beat out Iowa for a coach. I mean, no doubt. Nobody's going to pick to go to Iowa where you have less money and less resources and all of this stuff. I think we got the better of the two coaches. I made a video yesterday about Ben McCollum and all this stuff about him. And I mean, I halfway made that as a joke, just so everybody knows, because it just kind of went together so well. His name and Michael Jackson singing that song. I make some weird stuff on here, but when you really look at it, this dude, when he got to Drake, when he got there, they had like no success at all. And so he comes in there and he's really like it's so funny how different perspectives like lead your brain in different directions because you know when you get like Archie Miller after he was here, I kind of realized I'm like, well, a lot of coaches had been successful at Dayton because in that conference they play in, it was like Dayton had like some of the best facilities. Well, this dude pretty much kind of like built up Drake in a period, then it makes it easier for the next guy. I'm not saying that the next guy isn't a bad coach, but it's just that is where, man, he's really turned around two programs and also that he coached under, and I'm like dying on his name, the guy from Oregon. He coached under Dana Altman. He coached underneath him, which we know he is a really good coach and really has his teams ready to play in the month of March. So he coached under him at Creighton for a long time. This guy has a lot of experience he'll be 50 years old on April 7th. So, I mean, a dude has like that much experience. Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing because I got another perspective on there. Like, cause I'm a huge. Obviously, I was on Chris Beard bandwagon. I mean, I think this guy is a better hire than even Chris Beard. I mean, it's so funny how in this coaching process you get fixated on this guy and you get fixated on this guy, but in the end, I think this guy. What I like what Dolson said in the press conference, where I mean, he took all of these criteria. He is listening to the fans. We want to see modern basketball. He said things in the press conference about shooting, and it happened to be all about you got to be able to shoot. You got to be able to, do these things, and that's what we've really been clamoring for. I like Beard more than anything, but I don't know if his offensive style is as good. I was watching last night. And it's so funny how things happen because you look at West Virginia, what they did at the tournament down there in the Bahamas. Scott Dolson was there. I mean, and he said that was in the back of his mind because you're like, nobody thinks of West Virginia as like a great basketball team. They get some really great crowds for football teams, and I've always seen them have a lot of crowds for the football teams. But one reason why West Virginia is a really, really hard place to win, and Rick Bozich brought this up, is the travel. Like for him to do what he did, he beat Kansas at the Fog the very first time he played there. That's impressive for any coach. Any coach going into that place is kind of like walking into Assembly Hall or Mackey or the Breslin Center. To go into a place like that and win the first time, then he beat Gonzaga, and that's why that really saved Indiana. That we thought we were probably going to play Gonzaga, but then we both lost, and we were able to play Gonzaga, and they ended up schlacking us anyway. So the fact that he beat Gonzaga in that tournament, I don't want to make excuses, but he's got his son was injured 8 games into the season, but his son has a really nice looking shot. I mean, I watched some of the first games and I know, I mean, he had like, I don't know which shoulder it was. It's like he had bum shoulder, he had like a bum right shoulder and then a bum left shoulder. And so that was unfortunate for him, but he got screwed out of the tournament. And in the end, them being screwed out of the tournament, I think really kind of helped us because I mean, it's kind of like worked out that it's always nice to get the coach in there, get him comfortable because the next step of this is going to be seeing which one of these players are going to come back. I mean, Malik Renew, who apparently went to the University of Illinois or thinks he's going to the University of Illinois, but it's like he's leaving. So, and yeah, I watched the speech last night too when him going to West Virginia. You're not excited about it. I mean, time will tell. You know, I see how some people like had their favorites, and there's gonna be everybody had their favorites, but I gotta say, yeah, Herbal. I was watching a couple of listening to today when I was doing my work. I was watching some podcasts where West Virginia basketball podcast, and they were definitely. It's better that they're mad that he's gone, but in a way, I kind of heard like the sentiment a little bit that it's like, you know, they kind of, I mean, a little bit know who they are in the Big 12, and he moved on to hopefully what turns out to be a 15-year, 20-year career at Indiana where he becomes legendary. All of the process-based thinking talk, that got me really excited. This dude seems like a grinder. I heard a few people saying, you know, how, you know, he was really in the comments, like he was really nervous during the press conference. Hey, like there are so many different ways of like public speaking and things like that. Like, you know, it's just some people are just not as comfortable in that, you know, going up to a microphone and having to, you know, sit there and dole that out to everybody. And it seemed like a really stuffy room. I mean, they barely even clapped when he went up there. I I did watch the West Virginia one. I wish they would have done it like maybe that would have been too much if they would have done it in Assembly Hall with chairs and let fans come in and like really give the guy like, hey, you know, this is what it's gonna be like here. We got fans that are just so hungry to win. But I'm so happy they were able to get this done in a timely way so that you know who's gonna stay. It's I mean, do you see I see a lot of these guys going to the portal, but let's see here. Matty Ice. I like the hire. Looks like he will bring in his guys, like Coach said. Yep. Clearly respects the history. I think he'll utilize the state talent. Curious to see if he brings an alum to the staff. They got that guy. I don't know if he'll keep Halls on the staff, but the one guy, Corey Barnett, is a guy who played with Jordan Halls in like 2011. And I mean, I saw Christian Watford tweet that out yesterday, and I know a lot of people are talking about he has one assistant that was an assistant to Archie Miller. They don't play the pack line defense though. I mean, as far as what I've seen from watching him, he likes a really no switching at all. So that's something else stylistically. Like we have just been going nuts about the switching. Like to me, what happens to Indiana, why their defense was so bad, it's like how we were just constantly switching. And that is just a lazy man's defense. You gotta like fight through screens and stay on like a certain guy. And people in the comments here, we got Jay Davis. I watched the coverage on Channel 13, and man, the people in the comments absolutely roasted him. They were saying things like his son's injury was all fake. Oh well, you know what? I don't know who those people are. I'll tell you, I love what I see so far. It's um there's not much to dislike about this guy. He has about as much experience as you possibly could want out of a guy that's 50 years old in college basketball. I mean, he went directly from playing at Northern Iowa, which shout out to the Webber Kings out in Northern Iowa. I have a bunch of my family that moved out there to farm and have hog farms. Then like one of my he's like my third cousin played at Northern Iowa, but so yeah, Iowa dude, Midwest guy, and coached it as an assistant for Creighton all that time, then going to Drake, back at Iowa. But I mean, he said in there, he grew up watching the Big Ten and Big Eight basketball. Like he is entranced in Midwest culture. He seems like I don't know, like he doesn't seem like a good old boy to me. He seems like maybe he's a hunter, maybe something like that. He seems like, and hopefully he is just like, hopefully he brings that calming presence to his team. Something he said during the press conference, it's like, you got 12 guys on that team or 14 guys on that team. If you have one or two guys on the team that just don't buy into the culture that you're preaching or what you're trying to preach out there, you get one or two guys that just aren't on the same page as everybody else, and they can bring the whole team down. And I think we've seen that year over year over year over year with Indiana teams. But I think what's going to excite people the most about watching him is like playing a modern style of basketball. Go on YouTube and watch some of the games. They definitely do a lot more screening around the perimeter. And look, like that is what I've been wanting for a long time. And screen around the perimeter. And you can also, if you have bigger threats to shoot 3-pointers, it makes it easier to drive the ball. I mean, it really does, because you're driving from the 3-point line right into the basket, and you're making teams cover you further away. Who is that big guy going to be that plays like down low? It seems to me like from his West Virginia team, I mean, he gets guys that really defense first, And Eric here says, yeah, he didn't talk about himself in the third person. That was fantastic. Yeah, if he comes out, he's like, you know, Darren Devries doesn't get on the plane for nobody. I told him to come out here. And, let's see. West Virginia fans are saying they sat out because they knew they were moving after the season was over. Maybe, I don't know. When did he get the I just have no idea that he was going to leave beforehand. There's no way for us to really know that. Um I I watched the games and they kind of mentioned the shoulder injury, and yeah, so but West Virginia is a tough, tough place to coach. Playing in the Big 12 and traveling out to Texas to play all those teams that are in the Big 12, Kansas, Baylor, Houston, Iowa State, you're just constantly going from the East Coast and being way out west all the time. Heck yeah, they shouldn't be complaining, because yeah, they paid $6 million for this guy. It just goes to show there that they really had their guy. I don't know when it was that Dolson really dialed in on him completely, but I think he's a lot better hire than Ben McCollum is by far, and a way better hire than Brownell would have been. Those two guys, I think people would have been I think if McCollum would have been hired, I think a lot more people would have been upset about it. So, and that way, I think Dolson got the right guy. And I don't think a lot of these guys this day and age, and I was talking to my dad about this earlier. It's like all the teams are on TV now. Like, Scott Drew that coaches at Baylor, they won a national championship. He's on easy street there, because he won a national championship. And, you know, all the games are on ESPN now. It's not like, just because you're coaching in Indiana, I mean, a lot more people are going to watch your games because Indiana's got a bigger fan base. But as far as like the amount of money you make and your games being on TV, it's just really hard to, for one, even the best coaches are going to go to a handful of Final Fours in their entire lifetime. So I think this guy is destined to, do great things in basketball. And I think he's at the right place at the right time. I mean, I just watched his press conference. I listened to it a couple of times. And yeah, somebody was saying up here, yeah, the nervousness makes him human. I thought the exact same thing. It's good to be nervous. If he was going up there and acting like he was like Mr. Cool and like had it all figured out, I don't know if that really comes off in a right type of way either. But it's um yeah, the lack of accountability with no results, then that's what really got under our skin, wasn't it? It's like, let's see here. One of the West Virginia news people made the comment that the buyout could help them get a new football coach. Oh yeah. And that's where Signetti's dad coached there, I believe. Right. So um I think this dude is gonna do great things at Indiana. I can't I mean, I'm not making any predictions about what's gonna happen, but the way he turned around West Virginia in 1 year, and they really should have made the tournament, was nothing short of remarkable. I mean, and he got some really good NIL players to go there where, like, when you're at a place where they're not known for basketball, I mean, even like Iowa is probably easier to recruit guys because it's more in the middle of the country. It's in the Big Ten. You got a lot more eyeballs watching you, and it's a school that's had better basketball. So to do that at West Virginia, uh, is I think it's just like fantastic because here we got a good comment. Justin says, F yeah, Devries teams play hard and follow scouting reports well. Yes, yes, yes. And this dude is like, you can tell he is an accountability guy. Like he has the process. And what one thing he said in the press conference, like that getting didn't expect him, but hey, I'll sport him, give him a chance. That's a good attitude. I this guy was not on my radar. It was like I was real busy yesterday. I think Kent Sterling like brought his name up about being in there, and then kind of like started to emerge, I guess, just yesterday. And then, I mean, I was just staggered when somebody told me like he looks just like Bobby Knight. I thought he looks a little bit like Ed Harris, a little bit, but maybe he's got the eyes. Kind of reminds me of the when he was the coach in that super cheesy Disney movie, Remember the Titans, if you remember that one. But yeah, somebody said this to me once. It's like Bobby Knight, he doesn't look like anybody. Like, have you ever seen somebody that looks like him? Because not a lot of people look like him. I hope they all leave and let the new coach build this team. I don't know what he's gonna say. Like he did say, during the press conference, like, I didn't recruit these guys and they didn't recruit me, so I'm gonna go in there and talk to them. It's like, I don't know what some of those guys like Mbaka are gonna say. It's like, you ready to play some defense next year? And he's probably gonna be like, you know what? It's my time for a snack and a juice box, and a lot of these players, if they got used to being on easy street with the amount of money they were making, um, yeah, it was super weird. I thought it was weird too that there weren't like a lot of, I don't know how short of a time they put this together, but it was just it was all reporters, and it did seem a little bit stuffy, but the art of public speaking is an art like all unto itself. I mean, it takes people a lot of time. I mean, even when I even just started doing these live streams, it's just so hard to get all the things right and, get used to like talking into a camera, let alone that's just not some people's forte, you know. I hope he like really, puts himself in the community in Bloomington, like goes to church in Bloomington, is seen out and is seen recruiting. And if you love basketball, it's like, if you love basketball, you can go to any high school game in Indiana and find people just standing around, even like other coaches recruiting people. It would not hurt, and I heard Todd Leary say this today, it would not hurt to show up at Braylon Mullins' house and try to give him a ride to school this week, because that kid, from everything I know, like him and Trent Sicily were buds in AAU, and like both of their families were like IU families. And that's really, but Woodson put no effort into bringing in Mullins. Like, if if he was able to get that score, that would get a ton of people on his side. Now I know maybe he's got his spot at UConn, and they're maybe got a really good team next year, and maybe they're gonna go and try to win it all again. But it's like, if you could do that, that would get a lot of people on your side really fast. I think he's got a good foundation. If Goody comes back, and Goody is one player that I wouldn't care if he came back, and with his son coming, and then he has some players from West Virginia that are probably going to come too. And he's also got, there's some recruits that I guess he had coming in. Yeah, Mullins. I mean, he could just de-transfer right now. I mean, that's what Liam McNeely did to us. It's only fair. I mean, Liam McNeely did it to us. So if Braylon Mullins does it to him, then we're even. We're even then. So, like, in my opinion, it's like yeah, let's give it a go. No reason. You Liam McNeely. I mean, he was committed to IU, but that didn't stop Dan Hurley from keeping recruiting him. He was probably showing up at his uh the plagiarism part. What? Oh, he has 4 stars coming to. I think we all know though, like the 4 and 5 star players, it is not it does not mean anything to me this day and age, because you got to get guys to play defense. You got to get guys. Rick Pitino said it best. It's like, I don't care about your missed shots. Just play more defense. Yeah, I've watched all the. Hopefully, he will win some of those battles for in-state players. Yes, he's got to get on that. I mean, at least you got to find the guys that fit to your system. And he said that during the press conference. It was like, that was great to hear. Because we have just not had, and people can say what they want about Mike Woodson, but Archie Miller, even though, he was a a-hole, and nobody liked that guy, but he was like getting there in that COVID season. You could see a little bit of like the team coming together, and then it was like just completely over with. Mike Woodson took like Trace Jackson Davis, his first year, really kind of took all of Archie Miller's, all of his assistant coaches, and just kind of like extended off of that. And it's like, it really has taken Indiana like right into the toilet. But the great thing is, like, this day and age with NIL and the ability to transfer and all this stuff, like, we can be good again next year. It's not like we got this total rebuild that has to happen where, like, bring in a new coach and you're going to be like bad for 2 years. Like, it's just not like that anymore. You bring in this guy, he knows the types of players he wants. He knows the system he wants to play. He's just a college basketball coach. I mean, this dude, compared to Mike Woodson, this dude has been an assistant for great coaches for 20 years, and then done it himself, like turned Drake around. That's one of the biggest things, is like Drake was not in the tournament from 71. They were only in the tournament one time until he got there. And then he had 6 seasons where they won 20 games or more. They made the tournament 3 times. It's like, Yeah, I thought he was genuine. Like, I like, John's comment here, like, I liked his demeanor. I thought, you know what? If you're nervous, just be nervous. Like, don't try to, like, be something that you're not. It's like so I I I had no problem with the way he acted. I had no problem with the way he carried himself in the press conference. I thought he seemed like a guy that just really loves to coach basketball, and I think he'll get more and more warmed up. But yeah, is he smooth like John Calipari, like an Italian stallion going up there and being smooth as silk? I don't know if Indiana fans will really buy that. I think sometimes Hoosiers, we see right through that. Yeah. I mean, it's tough to be West Virginia today because they don't make the tournament. They lose their coach. They get screwed by UNC, and they have a great case against this because the athletic director of UNC, he got like a $600,000 bonus for them making the tournament. So that could not be more of a conflict of interest. That's why, I mean, even back, like the NCAA has been such a piece of crap company. I mean, even going back to like when Kelvin Sampson got caught doing the stupid things he was doing. I mean, there's a part of me that just says, like, yeah, we don't want cheaters, but they changed that rule the next year. We could have just lawyered up right there and fought that till the very end. Look what Michigan did last year with the football when Jim Harbaugh got caught. They just denied, and then it went right out the door. But the NCAA, that it's a tough day to be a fan of West Virginia losing your coach like that. I mean, I feel for those people that it's just that's a tough place. I never really thought about that until Bozich brought it up, but that is just a tough place to coach college basketball. Uh, Out there in West Virginia, where you're constantly traveling to Kansas and Baylor, Houston, like Iowa State, like a lot of the schools, that's the furthest east school of all those. And the Big Ten has that too, but because the Big Ten has so many schools now, like how Rutgers is out east, and then we got all these teams out west, there is a way in the Big Ten to schedule. I mean, we're actually in the perfect place to be in the Big Ten. I've always thought that, like, even going back to like the days of Bob Knight, when you just look at the travel, Bloomington is like right in the center of it. I mean, back then it was like Penn State was the furthest east you went. You know, to me that makes a difference. Like when you're always close. Plus, we got Purdue right here. You got Michigan State and Michigan right there that aren't like super far trips. Northwestern as well. So you know, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Yep, I think he's got to recruit Indiana hard. I think he's gonna get right after it because you can tell he knows like these first couple years it's going to be a lot of portal madness, but he did mention about how you really need to blend it together. I mean, you really got to get on the recruiting trail and then filter that in with NIL. But the things he really said about getting your guys and getting guys that buy into your system, and at least we have a guy who has a system. And from what I've watched is like he has like a lot um he has a lot more of like his own system than like Archie Miller did too. Like he has a lot more of the defense. His defenses get a lot of steals. They play a pretty relentless style of defense. Like the dude, and I don't know all their names on West Virginia, but the dude he had like playing on ball, uh he really pressured the ball. They really pressured like the strong side of the court, whichever way, and didn't switch. And I mean, it's pretty basic to play defense. I mean, it's all effort. You got to move your feet, keep your shoulders square, and stay in front of the guy. I mean, and he yeah, Eric's got a good comment here. I love his look when he walked into Assembly Hall. His face lit up, and I realized he understood what it meant. That's exactly it. When you walk in there and you just see those seats going straight up, and you're like, this is a beautiful place to play basketball. I know some people, I've heard people put Assembly Hall down, but that is my favorite place to watch a basketball game. Maybe someday they can do something about some of the seating. I don't know how they could ever change it, but I've always liked the style of having it like two opera houses like lined up against each other. Like I've never disliked that. It makes it unique. It makes it a heck of a lot better than all these pavilion places like Illinois and Mackey Arena. I don't like those at all. Um Now the Breslin Center, that place is another place like altogether, but yeah, I liked his explanations about recruiting and the guys that fit the mold. Yeah, that is it. It's like having that system is everything. And I think we got a good one here. I mean, I got to tell you, I am like the more and more, and I'm just was trying to absorb it all day long. I had a ton of yard work to do. We're gonna about to get some really strong storms here in Fort Wayne. So I'm gonna go in just a minute here and put my daughter to bed. But I gotta say, I am so happy about this hire. Um, I would think like him and Chris Beard just are probably like neck and neck as far as like guys. I think Chris Beard really, all in all, should stay at Ole Miss. I really wanted the thing that upset me the most about Chris Beard is how people were just like not were just shorthanding him before they ever gave him a chance. Like they never gave the guy a chance to really get the job or even have a chance at the job. They excluded him right from the very beginning, and that just really kind of like pissed me off. But if it was going to be between Brownell and McCollum and Devries, I'd take Devries every day of the week over those two other guys. And I don't know who else we even really had a chance at. There was no way Brad Stevens was coming. And I'll tell you what, if Brad Stevens was coming in, like right now, he's been away from college basketball and has changed so much since he was coaching in the Horizon League all those years ago. This dude has been around it, and he's been, in his 40s while all of these massive changes have been happening in basketball. He's been in his 40s. And the beard comes off because we got a new coach. I know I said I was not going to shave until we got a new coach. So tomorrow I'll make a video, and the beard will be coming off. It's a new day. Tomorrow, the first day of spring, the tournament's on. We got a new coach. It's like it's new everything. So it's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to be a Hoosier. Even if I don't know who the guy always says, like, you love to see chickens flying high in the sky. Well, today's the day. And you know what? You know why chickens don't fly high in the sky? Because they're chicken. That's why. But absolutely. So, and hopefully X's and O's. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like I'm really torn about which guys I even want to see back. Like I don't think Mbako, he probably leaves immediately. Like a lot of these guys, I'm kind of like going through the list and I'm like, who is gonna stay, who is gonna go? Because a lot of these guys, if they've been on this team for 2 years or more and don't know how to play defense and weren't coached to play defense, that's going to be really, really difficult to get out of their head. I'm going to tell you, like something when I used to manage a restaurant that always like went into our thinking of hiring people is like, you're working at, like, I used to hire people for Cracker Barrel. That was one of the first places. You get people that work at like this restaurant at TGI Fridays, whatever. And like we made everything from scratch. So we had like really specific ways to make everything there. And same another restaurant, Sweet Tomatoes. But those were like the biggest crews of people I managed. And that always went into the thinking is like, you learn this over there. It's so hard to unteach people things that they've already learned. And if you've been playing on a team and you've been able to play the kind of crap luster defense that Mbako has been playing and Renew and Balo is like, if you have had that like sewn into your brain for 2 years, like, yeah, I'm gonna come on about noon. I'm gonna try to make a short video. I'm gonna try to make a short video in the morning, a sweater chat, and then I'm gonna come on at noon and I'm gonna do live for 12 hours tomorrow. So join me tomorrow and I got to fill out all my bracket. I have been swamped with work. I've been down in Indianapolis like all last week, and then I got this lawn mowing company I'm starting. So I just had like all these decals and all this stuff to go over and different things today. And it's like, the news never stops. The news never stops, So like this stuff happens. I'm so happy that all these people, we got 105 people on here watching. It just goes to show it's a new day and people are really, really pumped about my bracket. I've got to do my bracket right now. And yeah, you wouldn't know that Bet US, hit Indiana 125 is my promo code, but Bet US sent me a bunch of brackets, wouldn't you know it, in the mail. So I got to go and fill those out. I think I'm going to have Florida winning it just because I love watching that team play. And Colston, I think, is my favorite player. I was really sold on Danny Wolf being my favorite player or John Tanji, but that dude on Florida is. And tomorrow is like the day of the Hoosier. I mean, it's sad that Indiana's not in the tournament, but God, where I went to high school, we turned off. We didn't do any work in the afternoon. 12 o'clock, they turned all the TVs on. We would just watch basketball that Thursday and Friday, the whole rest of the day. So it's a great day to be a Hoosier. It's a great day to have a new coach. And yeah, I feel like Will Ferrell and I'm in love and I don't care who knows it. I'm not trying to get that giddy over the new coach, but I got to say, I'm very, very happy and satisfied with him and the guy that Scott Dolson brought in. And he gives a lot of shades of Signetti. And we got to remember, this is the first guy Scott Dolson has hired. So it is really, really Rupp is a terrible gym. Yeah, and one thing in the non-conference he mentioned, and they asked him a question about the non-conference because that is really what screwed us this year is having this cupcake schedule because it made us look like we were scared from the very beginning of the year, and then we played scared. We didn't play a real ranked team until January 24th, but he said about trying to get another like marquee game that is like killer. We play Kentucky next year, so we get like two new coaches going at it with Indiana and Kentucky, and then we got Marquette, and I didn't even realize that was on the schedule. But it would be great to get, since he played in the Big 12, it would be great to play. I'll tell you a team that would really get into Assembly Hall rocking. Bring in Houston. If you could get a 1-2 with Houston and bring Kelvin Sampson back, see if he wants to coach against Devries at Assembly Hall, that would be rocking. Or, what, if you bring in Bill Self and Kansas, but just having like three marquee matchups like that, definitely a way to test yourself and play in another tournament like that. I don't know. The St. Mary's coach, he is like born and raised a huge IU fan. He was on Query and Company the other day. John put the comment here. So, yeah, St. Mary's, they play like a real ball control style and shoot. I mean, I don't know a ton about, I watched them, the team that that literally dismantled us in the tournament. Like we were standing still because their guard play. And let's talk about that. This dude develops guards. He is just a guard developing fool. His Drake teams had like, and back then there's an article that Michael Kolak sent me about him coaching Drake. And this guy covered Indiana State very heavily. And he wrote an article and they were talking about the guard play and everything like that of his Drake teams. And they were great, great guard teams. And that's a breath of fresh air. That is something we haven't had. Archie Miller never developed guards, didn't really see the priority. I mean, we spent that time with like just having Devontae Green and Rob Finney and Al Durham, and never really developed anybody on those teams. But it's got to be. I can see Auburn losing just because they play so hard. When I watch them play, I think, God, this must get tiring. Like game after game after game is like a football game. But yeah, I cannot wait. There's gonna be so many more videos to make because this dude's gonna start. He's got what I love about this is like his team could have played into the Sweet 16, played deep, and then we could have got him. And then the portal opens, you got all that stuff. Plus, you got to deal with these current players or some of the current players. And I don't know which ones even have the chance to stay. Some of the current players, they could all be gone for all I care. I really like Miles Rice might not be a good enough shooter that he wants him to play straight up point guard, or like I don't think we've developed shooting in our players. Like Miles Rice has a pretty decent shot. He needs to work on a little bit of some fundamentals and some things. But if you're going to have a coach that's really going to utilize you more, and look, that guy needs space. Go watch some of these West Virginia teams. They utilize spacing, and that's just the modern game. It's utilizing spacing and being able to set more of the screens away from the ball on the perimeter. I don't know how many times, I mean, in this last game, Oregon, how many times Trey Galloway comes up the floor. Okay, you set a screen and you set a screen. We're going to set a double screen over here for me. It's like we're running out of players. You only got 4 guys. Like somebody set a screen and cut away from the ball. Like that is basketball. You know, yes, Bryson Tucker. I could definitely see Bryson Tucker coming back and being a real contributor on this team. And you can see he the last one of the last games that he played in, he shot a couple of 3-pointers, and it really looked like he was working on his form because he's got the mid-range game down, but he was just having a little bit of trouble. He looks like he flips it with his thumb a little bit. But I mean, that's critical, is keeping your same form all the time when you get further away from the basket. So I could definitely see Tucker coming in and being a good player for this, not coming in, but just him coming in. And like Tucker's just a guy that's like I think he's once a Tucker wants to coach. Like I could tell there were times I saw Tucker on the sideline and he was just looking at Mike Woodson like, what is this guy even talking about? So like I think this dude wants to be coached hard and was just on a team with a bunch of flunkies that just were not putting it through. And Tucker, and it couldn't have probably been more disappointing coming to Indiana. And then like that's what you end up with as your coach, because we saw it all year. We just saw a poorly coached team. One last thing I want to talk about before I go is that the end of game scenarios. Like this dude really focuses on end of game scenarios. And yeah, it's he thinks that is like one of the best things. Like practicing, what are you going to do in the last 2 minutes? Who are the guys you can trust the most that you got on the floor in the last 2 minutes? Because that is where you sow your oats right there in the last 2 minutes. He's all about that. And I mean, a lot coaches that really know, this dude talked basketball the entire time. He didn't deflect the questions. He didn't give like these stupid kind of answers. And we've been hearing that for so long. He genuinely answered the questions like a basketball coach would. That's hard to say, but it's like we've not really had a basketball coach, not a college basketball coach. You can do that in the NBA. You can do that in the NBA. You can take the sheet and look at it and go, "Oh yeah, he was 3 of 14." It means he missed 11 shots. That's what that means. It's like that's not a basketball answer. You want to hear more than that. That's why college basketball fans are so passionate about the game, about what they see, and relevance to a crappy Drake teams make the tournament 3 of 6 years in his first. Yeah, beat Gonzaga, Kansas, number 2 last season with the team. Yeah, this dude absolutely, absolutely. I am so excited about it. And thank you so much for joining me, everybody, on this episode. And until next time, stay classy out there, Hoosier fans.